session with Naima's permission. And with that, I think we're going to start off with a video to introduce her further. Thank you. We aren't hearing the sound.
One second. Let's try this.
Thanks, that worked.
My name is Naima Clark. I am Executive Director at Nurturing Roots Farm, and I'm also Farm Coordinator at Living Well Tent. And we're at Nurturing Roots, amazing place on Beacon Hill. Here at Nurturing Roots, we're all about sustainable agriculture and community awareness, but teaching those with low access to healthy foods, all about what it takes to take care of themselves and self-sustain our environment. This space was an old pea patch, and we're able to transition each of the different lots. So this one was our second lot that we transformed, but we have kale, we have collards, corn, tomatoes, basil, 2 different basils, and then amazing fruit trees. We also teach seed saving, so all about organic techniques to keep things going. Welcome to our dining room space here at Nurturing Roots. We like to host farm-to-table dinners here. The last one we did with Chef Tark was incredible. It was a 6-course meal with drink pairings. We sat 24 people here on the hay bales, and we had little cushions. The tents, the tiki torches were lit. Our fire pit was going, but it was incredible to have folks come out, have healthy food. Often folks in the community don't know that we're here, so being able to welcome them to a space that's right around the corner was amazing. Growing up here in South Seattle, a lot of times I had a lack of access to healthy foods. I noticed that going to the convenience store was really easy, but filling up on healthy organic foods was really it was out of the question. So being able to have a healthy source of food at an affordable rate for my community is very important. Being able to address systemic issues around food justice. Why is it that our communities don't have the access and other communities do? We're seeing that other communities are more healthy also. So being able to educate folks on what that means to them is really important here. Also being able to help farmers at Living Well Kent, but all of them are immigrant farmers from Africa. So often they had opportunities to grow, but here in the city setting, you just don't have the space. So being able to even give them opportunities at our farmers market to sell produce and take home 100% of the profit, I love it. Our city is very expensive and it's going up. So being able to acquire property like this is really difficult here in the Rainier Valley. So for me, that was difficult. This year, we were able to get our nonprofit license. So now we have access to a lot more funding sources than we had before. But also being people of color, a lot of times you don't have an opportunity to be on these stages that you're considered a real farmer or authentic. So being able to be here and, stand firm in that, encourage other farmers to do it is really impactful. And even my friends don't recognize me sometimes, but to me, it's like, this is the most amazing work. It doesn't even feel like it. The future of Nurturing Roots is so bright. We've been expanding our space. We've been hosting more events. We've been teaching more workshops, but we're really hoping that we can have a CSA developed where we can not only provide healthy food, but deliver it. A lot of times access and people work late. They're unable to get to farmers markets, unable to afford it. So being able to get the food out to folks that really need it is very important. My advice to anyone looking to acquire a dream job or devote their lives to the environment is just go with it. A lot of times it may not be the most amazing thing. You may even see bees and get scared, but it does not matter. I've got over my fear of spiders. I've been able to deal with the dirty nails, and I've been able to have amazing, healthy food and show my friends what it means to, you know, take care of our environment and take care of themselves.
Thank you. That was great. Naima, you're on mute.
Hello. Can you
Hello.
hear me and see me?
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for that awesome intro. It has been a while since I saw that video. Can you still hear me?
Naima, we can hear you. Thank you so much for joining us. We can see that you're in a car in transit, but your audio is coming through, and we're just so glad that you were able to join us despite challenging circumstances. So thank you.
Right, it's been a challenging year, but definitely, you know, honored to be here. Glad to share with everyone who made time at the end of the conference. Glad to close it out, you know, and bring my expertise to it.
Thank you so much. So can I ask, did you want us to show the Vimeo section next?
So that's for another section of my my presentation. But, you know, just so that everyone can get queued up, maybe it is a good time that we can take, if folks want to go to that Vimeo, there should be a password, and the password is thriving, all lowercase. But that during my presentation, we can go to, that way we can, yeah, have it in that portion. But thank you for putting that down there, Courtney. But I can begin. I can go on and get my screen shared here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Are we all here?
We see your
So,
slides and we see you, and we can hear
okay,
you too.
perfect. Awesome, awesome. So the name of my presentation is Root Bound, Growing a Sustainable Revolution. A lot of what my journey has consisted of is, you know, trying to break free of my flower pot or, you know, my circumstance. So I like to speak from, you know, the humanity in our lives and how we can, you know, see it reflected in our natural environments, in plants, but all over. But really, Root Bound to me was striking because I see the disparity in our community. Growing up in South Seattle, for me, I felt root bound, and I didn't necessarily know the terminology until, of course, I came into gardening. But it's definitely something I see that's very prevalent, and it was a way that I could kind of guide myself into the realm of thinking like plants, you know, reconnecting to the environment, reconnecting to my humanity. I guess we can begin, but that's what Root Bound's all about for me. So growing up in Seattle, again, I was born in South Seattle. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, 2 god siblings. I was interested in video games growing up. You know, playing outside was my #1 thing to do. Early in the morning, we'd go to the park. So the mud pies and, you know, just creating lemonade stands and, you know, commerce through wood chips or, you know, the wood rounds that my dad would cut from our fruit trees, being able to watercolor them and share them with folks. Musicals, I also was heavily into theater. So for me, definitely wanting to, you know, be a theatrical star when I grew up. I practiced my autograph all the time and, you know, wanting to just be a performer, but not so much on this stage. So I think for me, it was definitely a place where I gained a lot of my, I guess my calm on stages. I was able to, trap those butterflies in a little dish instead of them flying and fluttering crazy in my tummy. I was an avid Disney princess collector. And then I have a huge family. So for me, growing up in Washington, my grandmother has 13 brothers and sisters. So you can only imagine how many siblings and, cousins and little cousins and great aunts, I have so many folks that I've been connected to. We often would get together for our family reunions. And I mean, even yesterday, one of my cousins brought by a new cousin. So it's growing every day. Sometimes I meet family I didn't know were family, but I love it. A little bit about my career journey. I started with Team Read. Team Read, for those that don't know, is a local mentoring program that is offered to elementary students. So being able to be a middle school student, I was able to go into an elementary school and, offer services. A high school student. I was able to offer services to the elementary students and, support them in a way that often, youth aren't empowered. You're not guided in a realm of, hey, you can do this and you're the teacher or you're, that provider. You're often the receiver. Often in underserved communities, we have our hands to receive. No one's asking for our insight and our genius. So moving forward, I moved into sales and fast food, but I definitely had enough of the fast food world. Got a chance to have PETA coming in and pouring water on our KFC, workstations. Like there were moments where I would just get these flashes of humanity, but I think I still wasn't prepared to break free. Similar to my sales experience, I think being in the realm of, competitive sales, and you have to be better, you have to overshadow, you have to create an opportunity that you can excel over someone. To me, it was, it was not serving my humanity. Customer service and hospitality. I worked for the Westin. I worked for a cement factory, making sure our OSHA requirements were tip top. But a lot of that experience just, again, kind of just reignited that feeling that, hey, I can help and there's so much more that needs to be done. Thinking about the EPA restrictions that we were like shimmying through to conduct business on a daily basis and seeing what it was doing to the Duwamish waterway was heartbreaking. But to realize, wow, we have a plume of charcoal and now it's going over, all of the water, but we made sure we didn't let off the emissions, like the alarm. Like, to me, it was heartbreaking sometimes. So after my cement factory job, I chose to start working as an entrepreneur at Pike Place. So that was my first opportunity to kind of get into agriculture and entrepreneurship as a pair. With my partner and I, we decided, we were into growing cannabis at that time and producing for the medical markets. And unfortunately, no one was into having medical cannabis at Pike. But if we were the first herb growers, we would be, the representation of herbs at Pike Place. So we got down there, we started Urban Farm, and we were growing the most amazing herbs in our yard. Our grass was oregano instead. We had thyme growing crazy. Being able to have even the most amazing peppers and growing those inside and realizing how reminiscent, all these herbs and peppers and slowly getting into vegetables were of the cannabis plants that I had grown to love. So Pike Place was my first chance to get that arm wiggling. And also it kind of gave me, another bird's eye view of, hey, this is still an institution in a way. And I'm providing amazing resources and amazing things, but it does not serve our community. So I think, again, my humanity was like triggered. And I thought to myself, okay, how can I do this and simultaneously provide an opportunity for people like me? I was at Pike Place Market and I was able to have access to the most incredible produce. I could get, trades from the organic honey, farmer. And a lot of my friends were eating honey that was not even like, just those moments where it was like, oh man, I gotta find a way for everyone to do this. Like, this is something that we all should have access to. So that definitely benefited me to push me forward and create the nonprofit Nurturing Roots. Creating myself or identifying myself as an executive director was really rigid in the beginning. I choose to be an activist. I choose to say that I'm a farm queen instead, because really I feel like we all, you know, we all have a responsibility, and the true royalty shouldn't be in, you know, a monetary type of circumstance. Real royalty is being able to have a governance over, you know, the most incredible subject ever. And to me, that is our plants. You know, I'm able to offer my services and my life, and they pour back into me. So that's the real kingdom, in my opinion. So a little bit of the highlights over the past 10 years for me. I guess this is in counting. We got to add some numbers, but I've been a speaker, a panelist, I've taught workshops. And I think the most impactful thing during that journey was really, you know, having workshops or hosting events at universities. For me, I did not go to a university that specialized in anything. I have a high school diploma that I am proud of, Rainier Beach High School. But for me, it was really identifying that, hey, I'm speaking on stage at UW and the professors are listening to me. I'm lecturing? Like, what? Like, it definitely triggered this moment of like, oh my goodness, how? So yeah, for me, that definitely was, those are just those moments that reassure me that this is a correct path and this is something that is necessary for my life. I'm a board member on the Black Farm Collective and also the National Young Farmers Coalition. Right now, I think being able to be a board member and sit in these strategizing sessions and creating, you know, a landscape for cooperative economics through the Black Farm Collective has been really inspiring also for me because, you know, again, not having a college degree, not having this higher education, not knowing someone who's, you know, a millionaire that got you somewhere. A lot of times that's what gets you in these spaces. That's what gets you a recognition. And so I think being able to receive so much is, I just like to be able to share that, you know, this can impact us all, just by identifying that true connection to our genius, by identifying who you really should be inside and not, you know, I guess assimilating to whatever your environment provides, you know, trying to figure out what you can do. So more than 20 broadcasts and articles, launched 4 businesses. Google searches, I think that was crazy because in the beginning of that theater career, I used to think, can I search my name on Google? And now it's just nuts. So to me, that was something, a shameless plug, moving on. Oh, and I had on here also that we had 11 chickens. We recently lost one, Snowflake. If anyone needs to follow us or follows us, Snowflake was sick for a few months, and unfortunately we lost her this summer, but we still do have 10 chicks that are running wild, that love their seeds. So my key players, this list inspires me so much looking at it. So in the top left corner, I have Demean Hall. Demean was my theatrical coach. She was my sister, my auntie, but she definitely was that first instructor that said, okay, darling, put those books on your head and straighten your back. Like, it was shoulders back and head high. Like, she was incredible. And she definitely just exuded that Black woman, just vibrancy that I needed to say, you know, I'm strong and I'm soft and I'm hard and I'm rigid and I'm compassionate. I'm all of it. You know, she really embodied it all. Moving to the right of Demean, there's myself and Emory Douglas. Emory Douglas is a Black Panther, but he also was the Minister of Culture. So he created the Black Panther logo. He did a lot of the imagery that you see in a lot of the Black Panther newsletters and newspaper that was circulated at that time. But Emory Douglas being able to come and go through his whole catalog with us during a presentation was amazing. Aaron Dixon was the chairman of the Seattle chapter of the Black Panthers. So being able to grow up with his daughter and then host an event with him and all these inspiring individuals, it really just gave me that moment, especially at the beginning of my career with Nurturing Roots, to just inspire me to keep the revolution in everything I do. To the right of us is Chef Tarek, myself, and Ron Finley, which we are still determining if we are related. But Ron Finley is known as the gangster gardener of South Central, but he's located in LA and specifically, Compton. But he is amazing. He started farming on different the parking strips in front of his yard, and then his neighbor would get on his case about it, and then they would go to court about it. His neighbor was saying that he's infringing on public space, he's dumping on it, when in actuality he was cleaning up these spaces and creating, you know, edible landscapes for folks to walk by and actually share and eat. So through court, through sharing it with the community, they were able to rally around him, and now he does keynotes. He's on Ellen, he's on TED Talks. But Ron Finley was brought to my farm by Chef Tarek with the Feed the People shirt. Chef Tarek has done so much around the community. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with his work, but amazing chef, amazing palate, my bro, but does farm to table dinners at Nurturing Roots. But I guess Ron Finley had just done a talk at UW, and Tarek just brought him by. So that was that day, and that's why my smile was that huge. Hopping down, I'll keep on going around the circle. The lady in red with the chives is my mommy. But being able to have my mom surrounding all of this work and continuing to support me in everything I do has benefited me so much. But my mom, she definitely was getting me canning at a young age, and peeling snapping peas, or peeling fruit so that we could do our jams. But to me, it was like, being able to have so much of what I needed at home, you know, that is what I'm so grateful for, thinking about my mom. Mr. Williams, now I get to call him Ray, but he is, so he definitely he's a colleague of mine now, and he also, he was my science teacher in high school. So being able to come full circle is really incredible and impactful with my relationship with Ray. But in 9th grade, science was pretty cool to me. You know, being able to see beakers and all this stuff we never saw. It's like, wow. So I love that. And then I love also being able to reconnect. He runs Yes Farm. He's a part of the Black Farm Collective. And, you know, like I said, it's just amazing. I believe the universe sometimes has spheres that you're just circling in, and sometimes we overlap, and it's incredible just seeing the overlap in a lot of these characters in my life. Down in the middle with myself and Miss Rosemary Neely on the Malecon in Cuba. But she definitely is a revolutionary. She was a Black Panther. She's a lawyer, activist. She did a lot of work with the Cuban Revolution and Fidel Castro. Just being able to, you know, see her pull out her phone and just flip through. Oh yeah, that's me with Fred Hampton. That's me with, you know, Fidel Castro. Like all these figures that it's like, what? You just were rubbing shoulders like this? But I mean, the amount of, you know, even respect that she has walking through Cuba, people know her, you know, people recognize her, and they never forget that. So being able to just have an acquaintance, a partnership, a sisterhood with someone like that is amazing. Mark Epstein in the yellow jacket there was our history teacher at Rainier Beach. It was not U.S. history, it was our history. So for me, he definitely gave us the opportunity to, you know, do a Holocaust awareness presentation for our grade, and do a Black Panther awareness assembly for our grade. You know, it wasn't about worksheet completion and, you know, assimilation. It was, what does your genius want to create, and how are you going to show me what you know? That was the most impactful opportunity for me to have. Can you imagine being in high school? We get to his class and we just go straight to we go to the AC, or we go straight to the Performing Arts Center, and we're able to just construct a masterpiece. That was what our class was able to do, and we were trusted. Mr. Epstein often, not to get him in trouble, he would come into the auditorium, but maybe he was staying in his class and grading. But we had that responsibility, and having that at a young age, it's like it just catapulted me. And Mark Epstein was also my first donor with Nurturing Roots. So as soon as he heard about us lifting off, he came through. And last but not least, the first female Black Panther was Tarika Lewis. I met her during that Black Panther presentation that we did at Washington Hall, and I got to sit down and have an interview with her. So a lot of the fuel that burns inside of me, it comes from individuals like this. And, you know, I'm honored to be able to, like I said, rub shoulders with these folks. But I often see where in root-bound circumstances, your roots can't find them. There isn't an opportunity for you to surpass your pot and get to know them, or, you know, learn about that history. The history often is stolen from us. The history is often taken in ways that manipulates that history. So I admire these individuals and so many more, but being able to feel, you know, my history, being able to feel a movement through them, y'all, it's the most incredible thing ever. Whew. So I'm gonna dry my, excuse me. All right. So now we can go down memory lane a little bit. This was, oops, yeah, so sorry, y'all. All right. So this was the beginning of Nurturing Roots. So when we started, we were offered this space from Bethany Church. And Bethany United offered us this space because we were doing a lot of social justice organizing through the Black Power Epicenter. And through that, they said, well, we have this patch available. If you'd like, you can definitely, you know, have your free reign at it. But when we got the patch, it looked like this. So if you can imagine my excitement to just get to transition such I guess a challenging space. But we had fennel and morning glory and Himalayan blackberry and knotweed. If it is beautiful, very exciting. So that definitely was something that we got through, but it was a challenge. Moving forward, we were able to get a little bit more clearing done at the farm. So we
Naima, can you hear me? Naima?
Encouraged to keep it organic. You know, I didn't want to come in and just bring something that was going to create, you know, cabin on all the landscape that I had. There was a lot of biodiversity there. In that previous page you would be able to see, but there's even rosemary. I mean, there was tons of different things that were already growing that I didn't want to disturb. Are you?
You've just been cutting out a touch. It might help if you could just start back from this, from where you were starting to talk about Himalayan blackberry.
Okay. So there was a ton. Let me see. And you've seen this though, right?
Yes, we see your slide. It's just while you were transitioning to inside that you were cutting out. I think it's okay if you just need to take a sec to get settled back.
Okay, cool. So I'll leave it here and hold for a second. Thanks. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, it's great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so Um, so just really briefly, it had a ton of invasives, but we definitely didn't want to use any pesticides. We wanted to maintain, you know, the integrity of the space. We wanted to make sure that we removed things, but we also, excuse me, we didn't use any pesticides to accomplish that. So slowly we began to rebuild the space. And in this picture, you can kind of see a lot of that strategy. So over in this area, we used a lot of burlap bags and we just covered the space. And then we covered it with black tarp through over the seasons. As you can see, that morning glory is crazy. It used to just grow up out of everywhere. But we started renewing the space and welcoming folks. So we invited young people. So here you can see Alon and Manny holding eggs that were warm. And they were so excited that they were fresh and warm eggs and they couldn't believe it. And well, they're not cold. So being able to have, that conversation. My girl Chloe and Zyla being able to feed chickens and just feeling the joy. Like there's nothing like, the giggles and laughter of children, being able to just share that with them has been so inspiring. But also student volunteers going to speak at schools and folks standing up and realizing, I want to do it, and taking the time on their weekend to come out and spend with us was, an amazing benefit that this work provided. So this was our first dinner at Nurturing Roots. Chef Tarek, Damon Bomar, they hosted their Midnight Mecca. And for those that have not gone to a Midnight Mecca, please look it up. You gotta go to one as soon as we can start, we can start having fun together again. We're having fun now, excuse me. But yes, so Midnight Mecca, as you can see, a lot of that burlap, that's what we did. We covered up with 5 to 6 layers of burlap, and then we built our soil on top of it. And slowly the burlap just breaks down. But that was the way that I mitigated, and a lot of the invasives didn't come back up through. But I love this image because you can kind of see what was there before. So anyways, Midnight Mecca, amazing secret location dinner, and then you get a chance to figure it out the night before, I believe, and then you get the address and you have to show up, but you buy the tickets before. So for me, that was so cool because I had heard about the dinners. They're kind of pricey, but also there was a moment where people didn't know there was a farm on Beacon Hill. People didn't know that we had the space that you could dine and share. So that was a beautiful moment. Chef Tarek also brings young people as his sous chefs. So they did a 7-course vegan meal that he sourced everything from the farm. Damon, he is a mixologist, but being able to make fennel cocktails and all non-alcoholic, but just doing a whole bunch of different techniques and grabbing the borage flowers and them floating, and it was just beautiful. So this was a glimpse at one of our dinners. We've also done a lot of community support. So at the onset of COVID, we actually got our second smoothie bike. This was our first at a community event, but being able to take that around to different schools, can you imagine the excitement of being able to just produce your own smoothie at your break time, or, being able to just throw in some veggies and not realize they taste so good, but being able to share with community was something that was very grounding for us. Having our farm to table dinners, but also being able to provide produce at our market. We had a market stand in front of Nurturing Roots for the first 2 years, through a partnership with Roar. And we really were able to just engage folks in South Beacon Hill. There isn't a farm stand or a farmer's market in that neck of the woods. So for us, that was what we wanted to provide, and really affordable. We know that we can get down to PCC and get food, but really it costs so much for that garlic. How? Those eggs, seriously? So a lot of people, it was great to be able to come, you can always free forage at Nurturing Roots while you're volunteering, but also to be able to just find a place to get the produce. We were doing that. This was a Black August event. So welcoming community and family again on site, but also being able to have home visits. So down in the corner there, that's Carter, but we were able to go to one of my friend's homes with his kids, and we brought some starts and we did a home tutorial. But being able to even just get back in the dirt and let the kids know it's okay if you're dirty, those type of things, often don't get to happen. You have to take off your school clothes when really the world is, my stage. I should be getting dressed for it. I shouldn't be getting dressed to assimilate. So love it. All right. So this is the time that everyone, that link that you have, and you have that video queued up. If you wouldn't mind checking it out. I just figure it's easier that way so that we don't skip and everyone can at least see it playing through. And then I can come back in 10.
Do you want me to try to play it, or you'd like us to do it individually?
And I can try too. I'm just thinking it kind of, every time I've done Zoom, I've been rarely able to have it.
I can this is Derek. I can do the share with the video. I have a fiber optic internet, which is pretty fast.
Ooh wee. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. Thank you.
Brad or somebody, could you repaste the link though? And the password was thriving.
Yes.
Great. Someone reshare the link. Thank you. Got it. Can you all see my screen?
We can.
All right.
Hi. You came to the farm. Yes, you're here. I see. Hi, Spider-Man. You came to the farm. My name is Naima Clark. I'm Executive Director at Nurturing Roots Farm on Beacon Hill in South Seattle, and I like to call myself the Farm Queen. Nurturing Roots came to be because of a dream. I wanted to create something for the community, to create a healthy source of food, to create healthy activities, and also find more ways to reconnect to our environments. But a lot of us in the city, we don't have opportunities, to be able to grow, to be able to actually see a farm, and then know what that means to us and how to kind of take charge of our health. Very important. So through doing a lot of community justice organizing here at the Black Power Epicenter, I was able to acquire this plot, but it was an old pea patch for a number of years. I think about 15 years it had been just growing and overgrowing really with a lot of invasives. And I believe Bethany Church just knew that because we were doing a lot of social justice organizing, she trusted, the vision, and food access was something that we hadn't really touched. So I think just together with the community and folks that I've been working with, they agreed that the farm stuff, you need to get out there and start growing.
So Nyema Clark came into my office and she was bubbly, she was energetic, she's a woman of color, she had an idea. And as she knows, as senior pastor here, I love my young people. I mean, the young people on campus and our children, our intergenerational belief that we can make a difference together. To be able to allow Nyema Clark and others to be able to connect with people from the community, share with them and connect with chefs, with using organic produce to feed people is wonderful.
I'm Nyala, the owner of Sugar Queen Bakery, where I utilize local ingredients from Naima's farm. I love using her pineapple sage in the 24-karat cupcake. I would definitely say 3 words to describe Naima and her work would be community, justice for all, and love. She loves her community. She loves the food that she produces. And the reason why I was so attracted to her is because she's not only doing this for herself, but also to sustain the community around her.
When I saw that my community was just slowly deteriorating, it's like, somebody has to do this, dun, 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 kind of thing. But I don't know, it's definitely, I surprise myself sometimes because I think about what I have been able to accomplish. It's like, wow, I didn't see this when I started, you know? So when I was 17, I was incarcerated. I had to plead guilty because I had a public defender. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford a lawyer. I had already pled guilty, and I was just kind of waiting for my sentencing. And through that time, I turned 18. And so once I turned 18, they refiled, and it was an adult offense, which turned into a robbery too. So second-degree robbery is a felony. Of course, I'm terrified, like, what does that mean? And they're, yeah, you could 10 years and $10,000 fine. It's like insane for me. You know, there's so many ways that I could have maintained my freedom and still learned my lesson. But unfortunately, with that stigma, I was a violent offender. And so fresh 18, brand new adult, and I had this cloud over me. Part of this was a lot of people going out on a limb, even myself. It's like, I didn't know how to be a farmer. I for sure didn't know how to be an executive director for a nonprofit, but because people pushed me, I think being able to see people that looked like me leading the charge for social justice organizing, and really Reverend Angela just saying, hey, we'll tack it on your rent, don't pay anything extra, you guys can do it. So for me, that's where it started, and it's just continued to grow. All right, let's see. I'm gonna put it back in the ground, right here.
One of the things that Naima is doing is bringing the community together through urban farming. She's teaching a lot of people about growing and sustainability, food justice, and what people can do in their own backyards. I've seen her go and install gardens with people and their children. So she's gotten the whole community really passionate about growing and food justice. So I really appreciate the work that she's doing. She's even impacted my family. Definitely planted a seed of passion about growing and agriculture. And so I think that that has really rippled through the community of South Seattle.
Naima's work means a lot to me because Naima, just being a strong Black woman in the farm system, is showing she's putting forth history, culture, injustice, and how by reaching down into the dirt, how we can use that as a tool to empower our own self and our own community.
I think it's been quite exciting these last 5 years to see what difference it makes when the church partners with young people and people like Nurturing Roots that can be an example for others in making a difference.
A young girl came up and asked me for my autograph. And for me, of course, I was in theater forever, so I used to practice my autograph all the time. And at that moment, it was like, am I a celebrity? Like, is this really working? And to impact a young person like that. There's been a lot of moments. But that was one of those moments I even told her, like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry right now. But I think just having the affirmation from kids, my nephew, you know, my nephews and nieces coming here and them being inspired, it's like those are the moments that made me think that Nurturing Roots made it, you know? There you go, now pull it, walk back. Yep. Social justice prevails by those most affected being incorporated into that solution. But I know there's a lot of ideas that just say, you just need someone to show you the way. It's like, no, we need to show you what works for us. So I think it prevails by, you know, organizations like Nurturing Roots being lifted up and being able to stand on the same stage as Seattle Tilth or Parks and Recreation and band arms, but them actually lifting, me higher. So being able to reach into communities and value the lived experience, being able to see how we're impacted. I think a lot of it's the education piece, but social justice starts with you knowing. You have to understand what's at play, and then you have to understand how you can transition out of it. But definitely building, social justice is building, a brighter, I hate to say brighter future, but building something better than what you've had the opportunity to see. Like, a lot of us don't know what it looks like to be a Black farmer, so I had to make it work, So a lot of times you have to know that you may not see it, but it needs to be done, and you know how to do it, so just do it. Trust that instinct.
Naima, you're muted.
Of course I am. All right. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to hop back into my screen share. All right. So with all that said, just bringing us back to our grounding about our plants and us, what makes us so similar? How did I find my way out of that pot? And I had to first think about, what do plants need? So when I think about the plants needing water, it's quenching a thirst in a way, providing that substance to wet our palate, but access to knowledge. For us, it looks like the access to that resource to know, the resources of being able to just do for yourself. I think being able to quench our thirst often is a result of us being root bound, or a result of, systemic racism, or a number of things. But for me, it was seeing that was our water, plants needing nutrients, the food, that feeds them, which also was very similar to us, but being able to, feed our bodies and eat for our health. I think that was something that I hadn't really thought about. I dated someone who loved kombucha, and it was like, oh, like I never wanted to drink for my health like that. So I think a lot of times, realizing where you need this, looking at, different things, like even flies finding the nutrients in feces. Like there's a reason why my dog's going to do that. Like, is there something left in there? Like, just thinking about that, finding my way back to castings. Sorry, I go on tangents about composting and stuff, but to me, it's the nutrients and realizing, what creates that health for our bodies. Going to Cuba and realizing, the doctor and the nurse share a residence. Well, they have a building. So the doctor's on the top floor, then you have the nurse in the middle, and the basement floor is the clinic. So everyone in your community has an opportunity to know your doctor by first name, and them know you by your body, like knowing you, not your chart. I think is something that really encouraged me to kind of look at, our methods of healthcare and think about it. This is not providing nutrients. You're providing an opportunity for me to get a Band-Aid or a solution to a symptom,
but it's not necessarily a solution to the ailment or, the issue that I'm dealing with. So yeah, being able to provide nutrients, eating for your health, realizing that your body depends on you, and then you depend on your body, but your body is depending on you. You got to do it. Light and warmth, something that often I would see plants aspire for. Being able to see, I saw a Michael Pollan video I encourage y'all to check out. And it's just examining tendrils of a bean plant and them aspiring to grab onto a pole, or them, seeking light. I think it's just seeing how plants can turn in a window. And now I've got to turn the plant around, manipulate its environment so then it will look at the sun the other way and move its neck back. But for me, that was a moment where it's like, the plants are aspiring to get to something, that warmth, that heat. And so I guess I reconcile that in our lives as the encouragement or the positivity. You want to do something and know someone saw you and you did well. I look at infants from our inception. It's, you want to be able to, have that self-sufficient, type of thing, being able to realize I did it, I got an award for it, and not necessarily the accolade, but it's really because you felt good about yourself. And often in inhumane environments, I want to say, you don't get the positive encouragement. And in fact, you actually get a negative reinforcement. So it's, no, you're not anything. And no, you're going to go to school year after year, and you probably aren't going to see any Black women teachers that are there for you. You're probably not going to see the principal as a Black woman. All these things where you develop, a coldness almost. You develop an idea that sun's never going to come out. So why am I even looking out of the window? And so for me, what we need is exactly what they needed, in that sense of warmth, the sense of wanting to search for something, aspiring, that's something that was really impactful for me. So a little bit more about being root bound. Something that, I felt was the limited access to education. I was able to go to public schools and be provided whatever systemic oppression could provide. But I also felt as though, there are folks that can get an amazing education. And how do they get the amazing education? They probably pay for it. So thinking about, my circumstances, my little plant in my pot, and because I couldn't afford a bigger pot, or I couldn't afford to sit my roots down in another place, I was limited. The distance from nature. Often, our institutions do not program us to recalibrate to, okay, and then go outside and then lay in the grass and just listen to birds. Like, it's go take a time out and go sit in the corner. Okay. Very rigid, no nature. No, okay, you know what? You think about what you did and just sit there, which I get, but there is something to be said about what happens after I put my hands in soil. And those microorganisms are hanging out with me when I'm thinking, or when the air can breeze through my face. And, I'm not being, I guess, punished, but I'm actually outside doing something because I love this laborious task. Like, I love being able to bring life to this. But the distance from that, it was very impactful for me. I think about the distance that Black people in general here in the United States have from nature due to racism, due to enslavement. I'm often met with the response of, I'm not doing that work, that's slave work. And for me, this is natural healing work. This is the work that our ancestors had to do. This is the work that our ancestors were, educated on. Thinking about how, my ancestors carried seeds because they knew the value of that one seed. I want my community now to know the value of one seed. My community now is stuck with the value of $1, stuck with the value of that paper piece of something. You can take that into the store and then you can get a seed, It's insane. Our distance from nature, our distance from our humanity. We're perpetuated with unhealthy food. I got to learn, the jingle to the ice cream man coming down my block and running at him with money. I instantly knew the value. I talk about an instance where I was in Cuba and we were greeted by some students. We had just left their school. The outside of the bus, the young girl wanted to give me a flower. And she handed it to me and I was so excited. And I thought, oh, let me give her $1 because the exchange rate is crazy here, like 27 to 1. She'll love it. Like, this will really be good for her. You know, like I had the best interest at heart. And I'm handing it to her and she shook her head no. And then her brother looked at me and he said no. And so then I asked my translator and I said, well, why doesn't she want my $1? I'm trying to give her $1. And so she said something to the boy, and then she responded and said, oh, well, she wasn't selling you the flower. And to me, it was like, what do you mean? Like, my mind blew up, y'all. It was like, how? And then I thought about the engagements with kids at home. Like, literally, I could hand them $1. They're looking for a $20. Well, I don't want that. Like, we are associated with this capitalist mindset and a distance from nature that is unhealthy. And I think about that and I think about other places. You know, it's not that as humans, we can't adapt to this, that it isn't cohesive to our understanding. You know, we are in a system that has provided the opposite of what we need to feed that piece of us. So yeah, that impacted me in so many ways. She never took that money, knowing that she could probably use it, knowing that her family, that would have been great to bring that home. You know, having your humanity first. Ugh. So moving on, the poor health conditions, I kind of touched on that, but my doctor, you know, tells me to just check this online portal to figure out my results. It's like, you don't want to talk to me. You don't want to know why, you know, my blood pressure may be that way. You don't want to know why this cancer erupted in my body. You don't, like, all these things where it's, nope, do chemo and that's all, you know, or do this. And, you know, to me, the poor health conditions also create this pot for us. We're creating opportunities for us to never thrive, or to put our thriving in the hands of that pot or whatever institution governs us. The limited inspiration to grow, you know, it influences us to, you know, succumb to what we do. I think about, you know, and no shade to anyone's circumstance, because I know that we all are multifaceted, multicolored, you know, multi-situationed, all that. I think about when I was working, I just call it a slave job, because I have to be able to reconcile where, no, this is the same. But for me, when I was working in my slave job, the limited inspiration to grow, it was about profits. It wasn't about really, you know, benefiting that person as an individual. It was about the percentage on, you know, our chart. You know, how many times can we get this? Whereas, you know, if I would have developed a relationship with this person, they probably would have given you great scores all day. But just thinking about that, the limited inspiration to grow, we're not in circumstances where, again, I'm 21 and I can start a business on my own. And that to me was incredible for my development. It got me to a place where, okay, now when I'm 40, I want to retire. Like, I'd love to be done with having to work for money and be able to have that house, have that. Because I think about often, when can I be done? You know, when would I be okay with disconnecting from these crazy systems that often have me root bound, to really spread those roots out all the way, you know? But yes, I have this quote at the bottom where I thought again about our humanity and the fact that sometimes we use big pots for plants we don't want, overrunning the yard. And I stopped there at want because you think about it, you know, if you don't want any roots of something going crazy, you're going to put that mint in a pot, right? You're not going to let those roots govern or overrun all of your environment or all of your flower bed. So I think about the same thing about institutional racism and how it puts us in a pot, no matter where you're from. Often we have the same environment and circumstance as plants do because we are confined. We have limited access. I mean, all the things that we've said, but it's the same, you know, and it was very ironic to think about, you know, that's a strategy I use as a gardener when I don't want the roots to get out and I don't want it to overrun. So how was I able to let the roots flourish and run wild? It was through a lot of hands-on opportunities. You know, for fortunately, I was able to go to these places, go to Cuba, be invited to work with kids, have friends with families, and have opportunities that created, this self-discovery. But I also had to find more unique ways to kind of encourage individuals to find that self-discovery, or to, provide moments where you could get those ahas. So one of the techniques I love to do with students is being able to do this exercise with the celery and carnations, if anyone's ever done that. But we talked a lot about pesticides and chemicals. So of course I'm into role playing. So being able to identify the water and then putting in toxic stuff. I mean, let's throw in some pepper, guy. Like what's nasty, being able to throw some stuff in there so they have this association with toxins. Okay, now we want to make our celery grow in our flowers. So let's put it in. And, ordinarily this exercise may stop with just the color transition in the stalk of the celery and the leaves. So you being able to see the absorption, and you definitely can see where this was impacted by its environment, this water at the bottom. And then I asked the kids to take a bite. And you would not believe how many of them are like, I don't want to eat that. Why would I eat that? That has nasty stuff in it. But somehow that doesn't necessarily translate when we go to Safeway and we see giant fruit, we see giant chickens. We don't think about what made them that way or what created that, what their environment consisted of. So I think being able to have exercises like that was really impactful to a lot of my students, because it was that direct correlation with their humanity, and it was the direct correlation with pollutants in their food. Moving on, being able to make products. So entrepreneurship definitely inspired me to go full on in this work, but being able to make their own herb vinegars. We go and free forage. We talk about, medicinal benefits of different things, and then they incorporate them into a recipe, and voila, name it, and here they are. But being able to see the different pigments and the creativity, and then also getting more down to it. Hey, why did you make a sleepy, spicy, mood changing vinegar? Why did you need that? And then hearing behind it. I actually did this because it's so hard for my mom to sleep. I just wanted to make her something that would feel good. Finding your humanity in a mundane task, and then realizing, wow, you could sell that and make some money. So I think even that, it's the ahas that we need to remember things. It's inside of us. We know what beauty looks like. We identify the hues and the pigments in plants. Why do we think that is, Moving on, equitable resources, but being able to go into Cuba and realize, if we brought anything, this group told us, we will never give one kid a toy. So we appreciate you bringing toys, but we want you to know it will be passed throughout the entire community. So just thinking where equity is at the ground floor of a lot of, the basic needs in Cuba. There are opportunities for folks to get free healthcare, free education, those moments where we don't have opportunities to be a lawyer, doctor, and, a professor, and like all these things. I was meeting 26-year-olds that had so many accolades. It was like, all you need is an opportunity to actually provide that service. With the things like the embargo, it's crazy what the United States has done to Cuba. Like, the impacts are nuts. But another thing that impacted me there was that truth, being able to see it, discover it for myself. They have a revolutionary museum about the assault on Cuba by the United States government. And it was very insightful, I think, because really it gave the opportunity for you to see firsthand, declassified documentation and signed copies with the president's name. And this was the actual gun carried, and here's a picture, here's a recording. I wish we could see the assault on the American people, or assault on our environments, in a museum form. Could you imagine? I still can't get a ticket to the Black Museum in DC. It's tough. Anyways, so the self-sustainability part about, this work is really, really what fuels it also, because realizing what you can do in your environment, realizing no matter your age, the expertise that you possess. I think that is something that we all have to be able to reconnect to. So for COVID-19 this year, it was a real challenge because a lot of what we engage, what we do in our engagements is on-site farm work parties, or we would do the farm to table dinners, or we would be able to have work groups from Amazon, Microsoft, SU come out and support. And of course, this year we were told that that can't happen. So we did slowly reopen our volunteer days with, definitely spaced out, being able to have our masks and all of our N95 stuff if folks don't have any. But we also did our grow at home boxes we launched this year. So with those boxes, we were able to supply individuals with starts. We gave them pots, soil, seeds, a lot of them that we collect, but being able to give them, a startup. We had 3 different kits also. So if you were an apartment, if you had an apartment with a balcony, or if you had a yard. So everyone had the opportunity to grow something. And then we gave you starts that were more beneficial to your space. So, excuse me, this was something that, we started this year for COVID, but we also saw where we got 200 and I think 60, 70 boxes out. And to me, it was definitely the craziest thing because I didn't expect that much when we started. But you saw again where 70% of those people were first-time gardeners. So the first time that they grew something, the first time that they had a second to be at home, the first time I was able to do it, now I'm doing it. So we got a lot of really good rapport with those boxes this year. Fortunately, we're going to get our new greenhouse and expand. So we're hoping to do at least 3 times those. We got some folks from out of town. So I've been strategizing on how to make sure that I can get some starts to those folks and not just seeds this year. But yeah, that was the most amazing opportunity because again, it was seeing folks reconnect with gardening and farming, agriculture, but then also seeing the photographs. Look at my tomatoes. I just made a salsa with all that stuff. Thank you. Like, it was those ahas, that often, look what I did. We don't get to do that as adults. We don't get to get that, yes, you did a good job. And it really be because of you. Maybe you did something and you made your company $1 million. Like, sure, that's great. But you just did something and I'm proud of you. So yeah, we're doing them again. Another partnership, of course, is sharing with local chefs. So again, Chef Tarek, Chef Jermaine, we gave stuff to Musang at the beginning. Chef Christy here in the center, opening up communion on Union. But being able to share our produce, we definitely, we help support a few of these orgs, but being able to get them the food so that they could produce free, healthy meals. Actually, Chef Christy, got to shout her out. She's still doing her meals. I think they're Thursday through Saturday. They will have meals on Thanksgiving, but you can take as many meals as you want. They usually have the most scrumptious meals and dessert, but they're doing one for Thanksgiving. They're located right by Franklin High School. Check out Chef Christy. So as a little reflection, I always like to think about, what type of plant am I? Or what type of plant would I be? And this is just another depiction of the root bound and what could potentially happen. Another thing that I've learned is a root bound plant. So say, for example, this plant in the orange pot, if that plant and this tree are the same age, right? I can take this little orange plant out and plant it next to the tree and let it start growing. Now, I assure you, it will grow bigger than it is in the pot, but it will never get as big as its sister or its twin, this other tree. So I think about that in moments where we've got to get out of our pots and it's an urgency. Like I can definitely benefit adults and have some cool work parties, but I definitely have to figure out how to speak baby. I have to get down to my 3-year-old nephew's height and see the world from where he's seeing it. When I'm offering him tomatoes, I have to be able to show him how to understand which one to eat. And guess what? That's through color. But also now he knows he can eat this one and this one you can't. I think development on the farm or in the environment is so much more impactful because not only are you teaching we could go on forever. But yes, I just had to bring awareness to that plant will start getting bigger, but we gotta break free from that pot and we gotta give more opportunity for individuals to not be root bound. So the type of plant I thought I would be, I like to say indigenous, originating or occurring naturally in a particular place. A lot of being a Black woman, a descendant of stolen people, it is difficult for me to find where I'm from. You know, going through my genealogy or my ancestry.com, it's like, all right, so if I go at least 5 generations back, wait, how does that break up? Literally seeing where a great 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 grandfather was having children simultaneously with me. But then this woman has his last name. So what does that mean? You know? And having to discover things like that is very traumatic, but it gave me the courage, and it gave me, you know, that moment that I needed to find my indigeneity. You know, I needed to find my grounding. I was born here. You know, it was not my choice that my lineage is here. But I also need to find a grounding. You know, I have to be able to put my roots. So I have to honor the spaces that I'm in. I have to, you know, welcome the ideas of the indigenous cultures that were here. I think about that when we grow, you know, when we talk about permaculture, we're talking about the way shit needs to be, like, period. That's it. So I think about that, giving that real respect to, I just think about how difficult it can be if you don't develop, you know, from your despair. So definitely I consider myself an indigenous plant, hybrid, a thing made by combining different elements of mixture. Like I said, I look at my genetic reference, and there's Dutch, Scandinavian, and then there's this, there's that, you know, so for me, it's like, it's nuts that I can even look in my blood and find all this stuff. But when you see me, you see Black woman. You know, nobody knows all of that. And because of that, I can't say, yes, I'm Yoruba. I'm from Nigeria. You know, I wish I had that. So, you know, being a hybrid is what I consider. A perennial, also lasting or existing for a long or apparently infinite time, enduring or continually reoccurring. So definitely, I think my roots started in a pot, but year after year after year after year, it's like my tree grows taller. So definitely a perennial. So I often like to ask folks, whatever situation you're in, parenting, education, whatever, hospitality, sales, you know, are you growing healthy plants? Are you in an environment that you take advantage of folks? You know, I was actually in a sales environment where we were told, if someone's approved for 10 lines, get them all 10. It's like, but they're a single mom. Get them all 10, like crazy. So what are you pouring? Are you teaching, you know, a cultural correct curriculum? Are you allowing this plant to really thrive? So yes, do they have enough water? Are they able to create that opportunity for themselves to quench that thirst? Do they have the right nutrients? Are you providing a stable environment for their body to thrive? Are you creating an environment where, you know, they are prone to illness or having solutions and band-aids, or, you know, overshadowing the real issue? So are you providing the right nutrients? And then do they need any more light or warmth? Are you creating opportunities for folks or your young people to be inspired? Letting them grab the cup and fill their own water, giving them a stool instead of always grabbing it for them. I mean, there's many ways, but being able to aspire for yourself is something we cannot continue to extract from ourselves. And for me, in conclusion, I think the most impactful nutrient I was able to provide to myself as a plant was the generational wealth. The wealth of knowledge, the wealth of calm, peace, love that I get from my grandma and my mom is what keeps me going. My grandma would cook every meal tip top. She just celebrated her 95th birthday. So being able to be the matriarch of our family and, you know, her sibling, she's the eldest. But us just sit and kick back and talk like girlfriends. To me, it's amazing to have that relationship with her and recording her stories from her childhood and being able to just capture that glimpse of her. And, her slowly, I know now she's still saying, I got a little garden up there, but soon she's going to call it a farm. Red Barn Ranch, here we come. Grandma's got to call it a farm. But, she grew up on a coal mine in West Virginia. So a lot of her techniques are in canning. And, oh, yeah, you don't know about chow chow? Let's make some. So canning and pickling things with her. But my grandma could make anything out of nothing. So to me, that was really a benefit to me. And my mom, I mean, she's constantly around, but she's definitely a cool mom. We used to make fun of that. But my mom just inspires me in more ways than a mom should. But she definitely has grown into a friend. There was a camaraderie. I mean, I've done everything, ran away from home, got my own apartment young, and my mom has never strayed from my side. So, being able to give me that benefit and also just support me along the way, I'm honored and blessed. If y'all would ever like to check out Nurturing Roots, come visit, give me a call or email us. That's the info there. But yes, that is Rootbound. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Naima, this is Elizabeth again, and I just want to say how I have smiled and laughed and cried throughout your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've
been seeing you smile. I'm like, yes, as long as I see that picture, it was keeping me happy. Thanks,
good.
Elizabeth.
I'm so glad. I'd like to invite our participants to use the chat to ask any questions you might have, Naima, if you don't mind to take a couple questions.
Yeah, sure.
And also anything else you want to share with Naima about her presentation. And while people are doing that, I just want to say that I think so many of the people on the call have a shared sense of values with you. We share a lot of the same values. I know you and I do for sure.
Yeah.
And just that idea of the importance of getting our youngest learners outside and connected to nature has really validated in research about when the youngest children have outdoor learning experiences, how they're more likely to feel a sense of connection to their local place and the environment and be caretakers of that place.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, I'm working on a lot of curriculum through Learning in Places. Megan Bang, I don't know if you know Megan Bang, but through Seattle Public Schools, and it's funded through the National Science Foundation. And we were talking about all this amazing stuff. What can we install outside to get folks going? And I brought up, oh, we can really identify climate change if we, they're like, well, it's funded through NSF, so we can't say climate change. It's like, what? So who knows, with this new administration, maybe we can say climate change again, but it was just a moment where it's like, wow, so we can't even identify the migration based on how messed up our climate is. We have to just talk about bugs not being there anymore. It's tough, but yes, we need to get to those early learners.
Learning
yes,
in Places.
Brad, I love it. That's it.
Yeah,
you got it. Yeah.
It's an amazing resource, and I love their focus on historicity as well and thinking about how places have changed over time.
Yes, it's been a joy to be a part of that project. And my site is Dearborn Park, so that was my elementary school. But yeah, it's been a joy to be able to do that and, really strategize. And I'm hoping that folks will just slurp it up and keep on using that curriculum. But thanks for posting that. Yes.
You bet. And I see we do have a question from Kayla Luft. Naima, about how many people do you feed through your farm? And she apologizes if she missed you saying that during your presentation.
No worries. So we are on a 1/4 acre. So a lot of what we do is allow free foraging. So I guess I'm hearing that question in two ways. How many do we offer food to? I'd say year round, probably about 1,000 people gets a piece of Nurturing Roots. But as for how many people we could feed, when I think about that, a small bed could feed an entire family of 6. Like thinking about an 8x10, you could do an amazing amount. So I think about, the idea of our Red Barn Ranch. If anyone's heard of that, we've been trying to get the city to switch over Red Barn Ranch property to us, which is 38 acres out in Auburn that has just been, disregarded by the Parks Department for a while. So being able to have that, of course, you can imagine where a 1/4 acre versus 38, if we were able to even turn 10 of those into food distribution plots, that we would be able to feed so many. But our hope is that we'll be able to encourage, Seattle Public Schools to continue divesting and supporting more local farmers, trying to get more into homes. So right now it's like food banks, you're going to get some processed stuff, but you need to know that you're going to get fresh produce when it first is ready to eat. Thinking about folks like Imperfect Produce, it's a bummer, but I just think about, a lot of the produce where we just call it undesirable. It's nothing. It's like, but this could feed so many. So yeah, just trying to figure out how to get more healthy alternatives into the community, but we will with Red Barn. But right now we feed quite a bit, but small incrementals.
So far, I'm seeing mostly just a lot of accolades in the chat. But I will share that after I first saw you talk, I went to your website and I looked for a place for donations, and it took me to a separate link, and I wasn't sure if it was the right link. And so I wanted to check in with you about that. But I also see another question has come into the chat.
All right.
So Rachel Calder asks, what do you recommend to students of color who use corporate jobs to break the poverty cycle in their families, but are discouraged and not finding community within those spaces?
Ooh. Yes, because that was me. I guess I can provide my own experience and bounce it off. But yeah, what I had to do, and just quickly, if it goes to a PayPal site, that is correct. I'm trying to get
okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yes. So yeah, for me, it was, kind of developing a relationship in the community while simultaneously having my job. So through the Westin, I was there. They knew about me being farming, but I was definitely like, you wouldn't recognize me at my Westin position. So I think a lot of it was, I have to do this, but where's my end? When am I going to say, okay, I don't need this anymore? One, I have to be financially ready. I can't just leave and lose my apartment or lose where I'm staying. I have to make sure that it's the right fit for me. So even that, I did a lot of just social justice organizing through the No New Youth Jail campaign. I would meet late nights and I would do it, but then I would remember, wow, I felt really good after the meeting, but when I go to work, it's like, so I was combating that, going back and forth, but also just staying plugged in, keeping those conversations alive with my friends, even developing those conversations with my colleagues at work. And then they started, you know what, Naima, you should go for it. So then it was like, I got this positive reinforcement. Okay, maybe I can. I developed a savvy for learning about nonprofits. So once I figured out how they ran, how they're resourced and funded, I think it was just, for me, it was a lot easier for my journey to get me there. It did take me from the start of Pike Place 4 years to quit. So I definitely was working at Pike Place and working at the Westin, the cement factory. I was doing all kind of stuff. But yeah, I wanted to slowly change. So it was the incremental life changes, being able to figure out how I could be stable after this. Then limiting even my shopping. So what do I need in life? What are my basic needs? Identifying what my need was. I thought I needed a churro during my break times, but that wasn't even true. Like, I actually needed some water when I was thirsty at my desk. So if anything, not to even correlate water and sugary churros, but literally it was just figuring out what the needs are and how do you sustain yourself while getting your needs met. And then it's a no-brainer. Don't be afraid. I think another thing is, you can do it. What is it that you really want to do? Because you can imagine there's somebody doing, what you are really, really good at, and they suck at it right now. They're probably doing it, but they suck, but they're getting the accolade for it, and they're probably getting some monetary gain. So I don't know. I just think about that in terms of, find your passion first. Don't just jump before you find it. But when you find it, that's all you're supposed to be here doing anyway. So it'll be amazing. If that helps. That might sound like, okay, I'm going to keep my job. With love, you can get out of there.
Thanks so much, Naima. Wow, I am just overwhelmed with gratitude right now and appreciation. And
Oh, thank you.
I hope you'll consider us part of your family and feel invited to join our
Yes.
family. And I know that we all would love to join and support your work as well.
Right on. Well, yeah, like I said, I'm honored to just have more reach in the community, being able to just meet new folks. And like I said, continuing to pay it forward. That was one of those movies that inspired me when I was young, little Haley Joel Osment. But paying it forward is real. People sometimes ask, oh, I want to be able to help. What can I do? It's like, tell your grandma, like tell that person in your life that I probably will never have the opportunity to meet in mine, because usually that's what gets them to tell them. And they believe you. They could look at me in a commercial, okay, but you telling them. So a lot of it is paying it forward. Please share what you heard. If not sharing Naima, just share about the root bound, you know, the misconceptions about things being all right. We have to just share what we know, whatever you have inside you. Make sure you share it when you can. Let me know. Y'all got some random facts, please share. But that's the most I can ask for. But I appreciate even coming here, my sis sharing with the group. But I appreciate y'all. I'm here.
The feeling is mutual. And I know that we planned the session to go from 10:30 to noon. It's exactly noon. And
Come
want to
on.
respect your time.
That's how it
Yeah,
usually happens.
snaps to
Everything's
you.
really, the synergy works like that. It happens.
That's right. Many, many
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank y'all. Be safe out there. Stay inspired. Keep thriving. And yeah, just put your head up in the sky sometimes and just breathe it in.
Great message to send us out on. Thank you. Be
Yes.
well. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Take care, Naima.
You too. Peace, y'all.
Take care.